proud to have as our next speaker representing Google, head of Google Developer Ecosystem and Accelerator, Middle East, East, and North Africa. Let's welcome my friend Salim Abid. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? I know everyone had lunch, is a little bit sleepy, so I'm going to make it a little bit light, hopefully. So I'm going to talk about technology trends, startup, and also I'm going to give a little bit of things I learned during my 20, 30 years in this life. So a little bit about me. I managed the developer ecosystem in the Middle East and North Africa. I'm also the head of the Google for Startup Accelerator in the region. If you can see some of the pictures, you will see I managed to run the largest hackathon ever, Guinness record, and you can see Paul Wozniak was one of the judges there. But I also am very proud that some of the patent and innovation I did helped get us to Mars. So if you look to this with Xilinx FPGA, they were able to use it in the Land Rover that landed in Mars. So that's one thing I'm very, very proud of. If you look to Google mission, I want to focus on two things. One is really the user. We want to understand the user. So in our cases, it's about organizing the world information and giving it to the user. And we need to make sure that it's not just spamming. It's not unuseful information. So who knows who are those two people? So those are the founders of Google. They were sitting in a garage 20, 25 years ago. They have the ability, they were attending Stanford, they have the ability to just take it easy, have an easy life, but they say we are going to take a risk. We are going to look to innovation and make something new. I'm going to ask a question. Who remember AOL, or know what is it? AOL? No one? Okay, one in the back. Alta Vista. Who remember Alta Vista? Okay, where are they? In my opinion, yes, it's good to do innovation, but if you don't keep up the innovation, guess what? Someone else will come and take over. Google, when it started as a search. Simple in desktop. And then what happened? We look 5 years down, 10 years down the road and say, okay, desktop, search in desktop, good, but what's coming? What came? Mobile. So you have to look to the future and say, how can I adjust and adapt and pivot my business to meet the need of the future? If you wait until the future happens, guess what? You will be in Alta Vista. What's next? Yes, mobile, but what else? Now it's voice activated. If you have seen, who knows what Google I/O is? Google I/O is our biggest developer event, and it was last night at midnight, and we did announce a lot of cool new things in technology. If you go and you look to what we announced yesterday for search, you will see what's coming. The IR, the virtual environment where you are able to search and see what's happening and be able to buy it immediately. But now we talked about one example of innovation. Let's take another example. Who knows what is this? It's a balloon. It flies in the sky. So a few years back, a team in Google says 50% of the humans don't have access to free Wi-Fi. So they said, we are going to create a balloon that fly in the sky, beam Wi-Fi to everyone for free. Crazy idea. In my brother's house, if I go to the second floor, I don't get free Wi-Fi. And they're talking about going in the sky. Guess what? This is a risk they took. They believed in risk-taking. A few years later, this became its own company called Loon. And then, in fact, this project was deployed to Puerto Rico when they had a big disaster, and we helped get 100,000 people to reach their family. Now, innovation, pivoting, adapting your innovation to the future, great. But also, at a certain moment, you have to be realistic. This became its own project. 2 years ago, the CEO says, the path to commercial viability was much longer and riskier than expected. And therefore, we are going to stop doing this. So it's not enough to say, I'm an innovator. It's not enough to adjust. You have to have an exit strategy, and you have to be honest and candid with yourself. If it doesn't succeed, you have to stop, and you have to move on. Now, in our mission in Google, when I moved here from the US 6 years ago, when we talked about communities, no one heard about what's community. What does that mean exactly? And I'll show you what we did in the last few years. So the idea is, if we find local entity in Middle East and North Africa, but also around the globe, and if we help them with learning, mentoring, and building businesses, and if we enable them to be active member or active element of the ecosystem, then our job is done. They can help each other. This is what I call organic growth. So you can import things, you can export things, but if you build it, you build the ecosystem in a way that within the ecosystem we are able to innovate. That's really the goal. So here are some of the programs that maybe you know some of them. GDG, Google Developer Groups, Women Take Maker, Google Developer Expert, student clubs, and I'll give you some of the numbers we have. We have more than 300 community in the Middle East or North Africa alone. So in fact, this is some of those points. When I started this, we had 25 community. Now we have 300 community. Since last year, we trained 1 million developers in the Middle East and North Africa. The reason is you have innovation, you have technology, you collaborate with entity, with communities, they will be able to train others because they love their communities. So how we do that is we always focus in my team about two elements. How do you scale? How do you reach more people? How do you help more people with the same resources? But second is, how do you self-sustain this effort? If I'm getting hit by a truck tomorrow, if Google disappear, will this work stop? So when we do our work, we have to build self-sustenance in it. So when you are gone, this work will continue. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine in Saudi Arabia, and he heard me all the time talking about scalability, self-sustenance, etc., etc. He says, Salim, we have something in our culture, one word to meet the two. In fact, it's two words. And I said, what is it? And he said, Sadaqa Jariyah. This is when you do something and you forget about it, but it will be self-building, self-sustaining, and self-scalable. So when we talk about technology, most of what we are trying to get and offer to our communities is what we talk about open source. Open source is technology that is available for everyone, and they can contribute to it. So it's not secret, it's not private to Google alone. So Android, if you have an Android phone, that's open source. If you look to the next generation, in this particular case, Flutter, which is allow you to develop application and deploy them on iOS, on web, and on Android in one shot. You don't need to have the engineer, you have one engineer only. If you look to machine learning, we talk about TensorFlow, it's open source. If you look to machine learning, we are talking about democratization of the machine learning. This is really, really critical. We are in a moment in history where I remember one of the senior leaders in Google says, I don't know which one is bigger. Is it the internet or the machine learning? And he says, machine learning is bigger than the internet. It's going to be much bigger than internet. This is what we are talking about. So we have an opportunity in our region. We are not late. We are in the front to be able to drive technology across the globe. So one of the things I do also is startup acceleration. So this is just a mention of the acceleration program we run. We trained 300 startups in the last 15 months. We accelerated about 33 startups. And we are really looking to build more partnership with everyone to help startup more and more. And in fact, we don't take equity. It's all for free. It's part of our social responsibility toward our communities. So this is some of the labs we are offering to all the startups as well. So here are some of the numbers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in it. And we have been involved in the 100,000 coders in UAE. We have been involved in Saudi Arabia with Tuwaiq, in Algeria with the Ministry of Startup, in Oman. So we are really looking to help everyone in our region. But this effort is not just in MENA. I have my counterpart colleague around the world that are helping also the communities. So with that, I have I lived most of my life in the US. I trained a lot of developers and startups, so I have something to share. So it's 3 minutes. I'll steal 3 minutes from the next person time, since whatever on. So passion. If you are creating your own startup, make sure that you are passionate about it. Otherwise, you are going to waste your time. Process, DevOps, iterative, those are really must-have. Partners. It's really, really critical to choose wisely your partner, because that's really where most of the startup will fail. And then the last two, fail fast. I remember my CEO in Xilinx. Xilinx was bought for, I believe, $30–40 billion by AMD. He was always say, go try and test and do, but fail fast. I don't want to spend a lot of time. And the last item is family. I strongly suggest to everyone, call your mom, tell her you love you, because if you are happy, if your mom is happy with you, everything will be fine. Now I go a little bit negative, or feedback. We have a problem in our region, the concept of entitlement. This is really very, very tricky. I believe I did conferences in about 50 cities in the Middle East and North Africa. I did a lot of events. There is still this concept of entitlement. I'm entitled to something. And I try to push on all the youth and the old that no one is entitled to anything. It's all about your current work, whatever you deliver. And last item, what is it? What does K stand for? Who will tell me? Be kind. If you look to what Maya Angelou says, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So that's my last advice to everyone. Thank you. You can connect to me on Twitter. Thank you very much.